Alright, it's time again to be the funniest person on this platform. Do I do it because I enjoy it? No. Do I do it because I get paid large amounts of money? Also no. To be honest, I shouldn't be here, so see ya. Is what I would say if I wasn't inspired by the funniest anime character, nay, funniest comedian of all time. This is a character with ideology so just that you can't help but smile, and a character with humor so evolved, so intricate, that all you can do is cry tears of joy. Today, we are talking about Takaba. The title of this presentation is Funny People Never Get the Spotlight. Man, how am I supposed to become a YouTube trillionaire at this rate? Nudge nudge, wink wink. So let's get right into it and talk about one of the best characters in JJK. Who is Fumihiko Takaba? Well, he was a failing comedian. He's just like me for real. Notice the keyword here. He was. Because while your boy is still a failing comedian, and failing is probably putting it lightly, Takaba, after everything he's done in the series, cannot be argued as anything other than a great success. In particular, the best thing he's ever done is he gave a top assist of all time, to be honest. It was an alley-oop from him to Yuta. ESPN should get on that, get the rights to that clip, you already know. The defeat of Kenjaku was only possible due to Takaba. It was Takaba that allowed Yuta with his great huge energy to sneak up and bush camp Kenjaku. How did he do that? It was with his curse technique, because it rivals even my own, Satoru Gojo's. Now he doesn't actually know how his own curse technique works, and I wrote here that perhaps it is an innate binding vow, because it might just be that anyone who has comedian has a specific type of humor. Otherwise it'd be way too fucking OP if he had dark humor or anything of the sort. We'll talk about this in a sec, so put a pin in it. Now, he also saves Megumin in the Culling games. Which is classic, a lot of characters do this, because of his revisionist beauty. When he sees Megumi, he's like, wow, you have a pretty shitty face. I want to save you and I want to make you more beautiful. At this point, Takaba, all I can say is, you have to save a lot more than his face, so good luck. Also, I don't know exactly what the fuck this means. What does revisionist beauty mean to Takaba in this context? How was he gonna save Megumi's face? Unless his curse technique is actually so strong that if he thought it would be funny to give Megumi another face, it would stay that way forever. Regardless, he also spends time in proximity to hot nurses. A lot of people are jealous of him because of this. Remember, in the fight with Kenjaku, Kenjaku becomes a hot nurse, and Takaba is right there, as the doctor. You know how things go between nurses and doctors. Actually, I don't, because I'm not a nurse or a doctor. But I've heard stories. And lastly, very importantly, he actually has the ability to bring Gojo back. And it's a really simple plan. Everyone in the Jujutsu world simply has to gaslight Takaba into believing that it would be funny if Gojo came back. So now that we've seen that Takaba is a pretty interesting character and that his potential is basically limitless, we must ask the question, what has he done? Well, first of all, he called the soldier a traitor to his country for no fucking reason, to be honest, really for shits. He calls him a quisling. I think I'm pronouncing that wrong, but it's a Scandinavian word for traitor, and this manga panel explains it pretty well. He just wanted to say the word. This is the kind of character Takaba is. Now, in classic anime fashion, he copies Kakashi and Guy's moves, which is really ironic in Kakashi's case. However, he uses the 1,000 Years of Death on this fucking bum fraud. I don't get what the shonen deal with butthole jokes is, but whatever, he does that. And he also uses a double dynamic entry, stolen right from Might Guy. And those two characters are strong, way stronger than JJK characters, so if he's on their level, watch out Kenjaku. Now, Kenjaku needed to watch out, and he did, because he no-diffs a special grade curse with fucking Truck-kun. Amazing panel. Honestly, the art is really good. And honestly, the joke is kind of good too, especially in retrospect. You'll come to find that if you reread all the parts with Takaba, they're actually funnier than you remember. I like cringe funny, but you know, I mean, you're watching this video anyway. Now, just like your favorite YouTubers that reuse content, he makes the same hilarious Wi-Fi joke twice. That was so awesome to read. That was actually unfunny. That's why I never repeat jokes. Alright, now that I got my lying out of the way in this video, unfortunately he also forces Kenjaku to start the great Jujutsu yappening. And I know a lot of people call it peak. I know a lot of people really like the Kenjaku Takaba fight, but let me tell you, reading it weekly, reading essays of texts, was not enjoyable. It was the yappening, man. And granted, I went back and reread it, and it's way more digestible if you just binge it, but dude, waiting for those weeks and getting a chapter of Kenjaku yapping about shit that you have no idea what he's talking about. That wouldn't affect me though, because I have Limitless. Anyway, he also loops himself up. Pretty based, I guess. We'll see that picture later. So as we do with many characters, we must ask the question, how strong is Takaba? Well, honestly, he's goated with the sauce, but it's not even because of his curse technique. It's because he never gives up on his dreams, and he just wants to be a comedian. Truly an inspiration to us all. Honestly, his backstory was really compelling. He's just a normal guy that wants to succeed in his dream. And it's not the typical shonen, I'm just gonna overcome it with hard work. Nah, Takaba's pretty ass. He lucks out, just like you need to in life. But while Takaba is strong, at least ideologically, we must ask the question, how strong is Comedian itself? Well, it's extremely fucking busted. Like, no joke. First of all, let's get this right out of the way. It is more reality warping than, for instance, Luffy's Gear 5. Certain types of humor enable basically anything. So, let's examine. So in the spirit of Takaba, an aspiring comedian, no, I would even say a successful comedian, we will be examining how strong would he be if he had different comedians' humor. And of course we'll start with myself, if we can even call myself a comedian. First of all, there are two options. Option one, he's top one in the verse. Sukuna meets Gojo at the airport after a nasty verbal assault and continuous cringe calling. That's me. Sukuna could not live with his failures, all his self and Gege's glazing, and he ends up meeting Gojo in the airport. Also, all my jokes are really hilarious and I'm really hot and sexy. Option number two, it's a useless technique. He's bottom one in the verse. His jokes aren't funny at all and people actually cringe at him. Unfortunately, many people do. I read the comments. And he angers his opponents, actually. He gives them a buff. Like, oh man, I want to beat the shit out of this guy. I know you. Thankfully though, at least he's really hot and sexy. I'm pulling some comedians out of my ass here, so bear with me. Cody Ko's YouTube comment section. How strong would Takaba be if he had their humor? It's a very simple premise. Any male under 5'9" is insta-gibbed, does not exist anymore. He can beat 50% of the male characters. Unfortunately, he cannot beat Sukuna. He cannot beat Gojo. Thankfully, Cody Ko's comment section seems to be well-adjusted human beings, so he stands on equal grounds with any woman. Pretty solid technique. Nothing to write home about. But let's move forward. How strong would he be if he had the humor of Ludwig's chat? It's a very simple premise. Any male under 5'9" is insta-gibbed and does not exist anymore. He can beat 50% of male characters. Unfortunately, he loses to any woman. Sorry, Ludwig chat, you're just like me for real. Pete Davidson. I'm actually not even sure what this humor is. I don't know how I would describe this. Is this video turning into something else? Perhaps, but I don't care. Now, please describe to me Pete Davidson's humor, because all I know is that he looks kind of weird, dates famous women, and laughs awkwardly on SNL. Like, he doesn't try that hard. So basically, if Takaba had Pete Davidson's humor, he'd beat anyone weaker than Machine Gun Kelly. Notably, he would not beat Eminem. Interestingly though, if he had Ludwig's or Cody Ko's comment section, then he would beat Eminem. Sorry, Short King. Anyway, Amy Schumer. He would self-destruct. Bo Burnham. It's a simple premise. Any character that has ever stepped foot outside loses. So guys, I know what you're thinking. Most of you are safe. Do not worry. I'm just kidding. You better be fucking going outside and hitting the gym. Now, unfortunately, also any character without an understanding of sarcasm explodes. Now, guys, I know what you're thinking. You're safe. Don't worry. Isn't that right, my auspicious beast? Now, for this slide, I just want to talk about a few theories I have about Comedian as a curse technique. First of all, the Chinese sorcerer from the Heian era that Sukuna fears had Comedian, I think. Because it is a really busted technique. Now, I did want to draw my own depiction of the Chinese sorcerer, but then I realized something. First of all, there are already racist allegations against Gojo, and I am a white male on the internet. So in lieu of not wanting to be misconstrued for casual racism, I decided to just add this picture. Good looking human here. Let me tell you, this Chinese sorcerer was one hell of a powerhouse. Now also I think that Gege's real life curse technique is Comedian, it's just that he's unfunny. He has the power of the pen. You know what I mean? Everything that's happening now, all the Sukuna glaze, that's what he thinks is funny. I just want to write a story about a really strong villain. I know I shit on Sukuna a lot, but I actually think he's an amazing villain. However, current Sukuna and Megakuna do not have the same aura that Itadori Sukuna had. And then my final theory is because we never really see Takaba use RCT, but RCT just makes anything that he finds violently unfunny disappear. For example, Amy Schumer. Now, in conclusion, what can we say about Takaba? Well, he has the potential top 1 curse technique in the entire verse. And here he is lubed up. He literally takes no damage from a punch, which, and lube wouldn't even do that. I don't know if you guys have tried. Not that I have. You would still definitely get hurt. Now, he also spent time with the Kinjisi. A lucky man. Pour one out for the people who haven't gotten the chance. Not that this has anything to do with Takaba, but I'm still unsure how I'd classify Pete Davidson's humor. So again, explain. I watched one of his stand-up specials, it was okay. Now what Takaba does in the series, in retrospect, when you reread it, is actually quite funny. When I was reading it week to week, Takaba was a little bit of a cringe character, but again, in the binge format, in the long form JJK format, Takaba as a character works really well, well-written Gege, great comic relief. More butthole jokes, please. That's what I live for, Gege. Now, he also brought about the great Jujutsu Yappening. Unfortunately, this will stay in the history books forever, and there's nothing you and I can do to change how I felt at the time. But most importantly, when it's all said and done, Takaba, I must say, You're a successful comedian. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing. If you subscribe, remember, you become sexier. Not a lot of people know that, actually. And I become your best friend. It says on my channel. Talk about PR team, anti-talk about PR team. Let me know in the comments below what you think about the character. Do you think all my takes are L's as always? LL, double L, Luca Levy. Also leave in the comments below any other suggestions for future videos. I read them. I know. I know what your sense of humor is like. I see you hating on me too. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day or rest of your day, you sexy beast, as long as you're over 18. I love you. Goodbye.